Beginning in 1984 in Stark County, Ohio, an elderly couple starts getting harassed by a random unknown assailant. Though there were multiple incidents and nearly 40 years of time gone by, there are still 0 suspects. You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Bill and Dorothy Wacker.
Well, as far as all this harassment is going on, which to me it looks like it's trying to force us to move. Why should I move? Why should we move? Why should we be forced out by a kook? To me, that's what it is a kook. I'll not do it. I'll stay there, protect our own.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. Good news is there's this big bright ball in the sky now. I've not seen it in like 2 weeks. So it was
out a little today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just laid in the driveway and soaked up that marvelous sunshine.
Well, enjoy it while you can, because apparently by New Year's Eve, the high is going to be 12.
Yeah, I saw like Christmas Day, the high for us, which I'm below you, is 24.
You below me?
No, not yet. I mean, right amount of money I might.
Well, now that I finally hooked you up with the Lumi Joe load of beers, maybe I can get you.
Good God, man. How many times are we going to like just go off phallic on this? You're talking about Lumi Joe's load and...
I said load of beers.
Well, you said his load, and then you like paused.
There was no pause, man.
Okay. Whatever, man.
If
Whatever.
there was a pause, I'd have said I finally hooked you up with Lumi Joe's load of beer.
Oh, man.
Anyway, didn't mean to get all sexual. I'm sure
All right, so we're closing in on the best time short of snow day for teachers, and that is Christmas break.
Well, yours is tomorrow. Mine's not till Thursday of next week. I get off like the 22nd.
My son does not get his last day is Wednesday. Yeah, ours is tomorrow just because, but don't think it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows because I have a faculty meeting at 2:00. But anyway.
That's criminal.
I agree with you.
If you're having faculty meetings anytime after noon on the day of the day before a holiday, you're criminal.
Totally agree with you. Last year, all we had to do was we were assigned an administrator. We had to meet with them. We had to bring up our grades and show that in both grade books, the one that the parents can access and the ones that we use, that the averages were the same. And
they're making you do 2 grade books?
Yeah.
Oh, that's super fun. What's wrong with having 1?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And here's what kills me. 1 rounds to the percentages to the nearest 1,000. That's 3 decimal places. The other one rounds to the nearest 100th,
which is 2.
There you go. You learn it. And they these averages can be as off as 2 points and have the identical grades in there. So you have to go student by student sometimes. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So, but anyway, enough of that. No new patrons as of us recording today.
It's Christmas time, guys. That would be a great Christmas present for the both of us. If you're thinking about us, give us a little couple hundos,
Yeah.
Couple.
That $10,000 tier's still out there. All right, so let's just jump into it, man. We have
covering another Unsolved Mysteries case.
Yes, the mysterious case of Bill and Dorothy Wacker. Now,
I'm going to say this before we get started about all of it. I'm going to say that there's something more to this story that Bill and Dorothy Wacker didn't provide, because for this to be completely random with no explanation, no suspects, no nothing, just doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't. And we'll get into it after we get through the details, but there's some online speculation based off of the Unsolved Mysteries episode, which I think kind of skews a lot of people's, I guess, view of what happened or what could have happened, blah, 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 blah. But anyway,
Well, if it's on Unsolved Mysteries, then it was correct, and everybody else is wrong,
That's
even
right.
though, the Unsolved Mysteries episode aired in the 80s.
Now, here's the funny thing. We've referenced this obscure message board before, but sitcomsonline.com has a Unsolved Mysteries board on it. This case, the last time I looked, was over 100 pages long.
Wow.
So this is like a cult classic whodunit. So we are talking about Mr. William Lewis Bill Wacker, as he was affectionately known, was born on March 12th, 1920 in Massillon, Ohio. He served in the U.S. Army as a private first class in World War II. And he was married to a Mrs. Dorothy Jean Wacker, who was born on April 21st, 1927 in Massillon, Ohio. And you may be thinking, where is Massillon, Ohio? It just sounds so quaint and charming. Well, it's in Stark County, Ohio. And it is. It's just a small Ohio town where there's not much going on. Now, Bill and Dorothy had been married for 48 years, leading just your average run-of-the-mill retired life. And that was until the beginning of 1984. And despite being just a retired couple with a couple of neighbors, they found themselves the recipients of what Bill would say was a kook in the Unsolved Mysteries episode. And the harassment began in January, February of 84, and despite being, I guess just ransacked home kind of, Bill and Dorothy would come home, and people refer to it as home invasions now, but it's like some punk kids just went in and just flipped everything upside down and just destroyed the house. Not structurally, but just turned stuff over, just being turds. It was not until the third of these pillages that Bill decided that he was going to have to call the authorities. And so on January 16th, 1985, they decided to contact the Massillon Police Department, and authorities investigated but did not find anything of significance. And for about 6 months after the police were there checking everything out, the Wacker's life went back to normal. Nothing crazy happened. No more break-ins. But Dorothy I believe she had, heart surgery. And she's home alone in the summer of 1985, and in July, to be more specific, when she hears an unexpected knock at the front door. And she describes a young white man standing on her porch asking if he could use her phone because his car had broken down and he needed help. So,
remember those days when you had to actually stop at strangers' house?
Oh, I've done it. When I was a kid, I had 2 wrecks when I was a teenager, and both times I knocked on the door thinking, please don't shoot me.
Man, I had a wreck one time. I was a mile away from home. I fell asleep at the wheel at like 3 a.m. and flipped my car like 8 times. My cell phone flew out. No cars on that road for 2 hours. And the only car I saw was the newspaper man delivering newspapers.
Damn.
And he's like, I swear, Jeff Foxworthy moment. He said, man, you need some help?
No, I'm just out here man. 5 a.m. with a car upside down in the ditch. I thought it'd be a good idea.
No, I just figured I'd park it this way and stand next to it. I do appreciate the man's help, but man, I was just like, come on, bro.
Oh, man. So back to Dorothy. She lets the man inside to call for assistance, and she goes back and sits down in the living room, and he's using the phone in the kitchen. Now, she says that she heard the man say goodbye on the telephone and heard the door open and close, and so she thought she was alone. The next thing she knows, she finds herself on the kitchen floor, bound and gagged with a knot on her head. She was able to crawl to an open kitchen window and yell for help, and her neighbors heard the screams, came running, and was able to free Dorothy from her bindings, and they called the police. Now, Dorothy does give a description of her attacker to the police and medical personnel when authorities and the EMS arrive on the scene. The details that she provides was used to create a composite sketch, and we'll post it on our socials. It's very, mundane.
It doesn't give me any leads. Like, It looks like very generic white dude.
Yep.
Like,
Yes.
I'm a businessman doing business. just completely generic dude.
Well, she says that he was about 5'9" tall, had blue eyes, blonde hair, and seemed to be in his mid-20s. So Bill arrives home and realizes what's going on and makes sure that Dorothy's okay. And then he starts looking around the house, and he finds that whoever had attacked his wife had also stolen a .22 caliber revolver, a radio scanner, a video camera, an antique watch, and I think there was one other thing that they took. And in the dining room, he finds the words "cheaper but will do" written in crayon on the wall.
What the hell does that even mean?
And there's been a lot of speculation about that, and people say that this leads them to believe that this was just a random robbery, or this was a bunch of, like I said earlier, a bunch of punk teenagers, early 20 guys. They're going to do their first robbery or burglary, and they find out that they picked the wrong house because they don't get anything but a .22 caliber revolver and a couple of things. And I think
I saw a thing that was like perhaps that trying to say Dorothy or Bill owed them money, and it was something about it was cheaper to do that, but it'll do. I don't know.
I know that the authorities looked into the pawn shops around Massillon, and then I think they went, a 50-mile radius, checking to see if any of the things had been pawned. And, of course, nothing. They showed the sketch to the community. Nothing is found. Nobody has any leads.
At least they got robbed, though. You know my stance on that.
Right. It's been duly noted.
Yeah. At least the guy stole stuff.
So the existence of Bill and Dorothy just became progressively awkward as time went on. At various times throughout the day, they would begin to receive harassing phone calls. The caller continued to imply extreme violence against them and occasionally blew heavily into the receiver without speaking. I've heard it described as heavy breathing when they answer the phone as well. Now, Bill and Dorothy do their due diligence and change their phone numbers several times, but the caller still manages to get their new number. And the harassing phone calls continue. So as time went on, the unsettling and nervousness of this is starting to wear on Bill and Dorothy.
As it would me as well.
Yes, and then to ratchet it up a notch, they begin hearing loud, unrelenting pounding on the side of their house at all hours of the night. Bill would go as far as to install security lights on the front porch as a response to this, in the hopes that the people would leave them alone. But it seemed that this only angered the perpetrators more. So one morning, Bill goes outside on the front porch and finds a handwritten note that read, quote, "Your lights are a laugh," end quote. And lights is spelled with a Z instead of an S. Now, the family would find frequent additional notes on their porch, which law enforcement later examined in the hopes of obtaining fingerprints, but they couldn't find any. And they hypothesized that the author was attempting to conceal their handwriting by writing with their non-dominant hand.
That would work for me because my handwriting with my dominant hand is horrible, but my non-dominant hand is just pointless.
I was going to say, it would take me an eternity to write with my non-dominant hand. So Bill awakes to a strange occurrence in November 1985. 4 months after Dorothy was attacked, he goes out on the front porch and finds the .22 caliber revolver that was stolen is now laying on the front porch in a shopping bag. He would state that the other remaining stolen items would eventually show back up at odd times throughout 1985. So again, police take the items, the shopping bags, they go, take them to the crime lab, try to get fingerprints, nothing. They have nothing. So the days go into weeks, and the weeks go into months, and years pass by. And really, it's just harassment from the first attack until Wednesday, October 27th, 1993. 8 years after she was initially attacked in July of 85, she is attacked again. This time she has had to be taken to Affinity Medical Center for treatment for a concussion and lacerations to her skull.
Sheesh. Why? I mean, that's such persistence, though. 8 years between physical attacks.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And at first, the authorities and the doctors that were working on Dorothy think that Bill is responsible for attacking his wife. But
You always go to that because it's right so often.
Right.
You can't fault police for thinking that.
But Dorothy vehemently denies that, she states that that's not the type of man Bill was. He was an unassuming, just enjoying retirement. He's never raised a hand to her. Why would he start now? And they believe her. So she convinces them. And then Bill has, no prior records of abuse. Nobody's ever seen him abuse his wife or anything like that. So they kind of move on from him. So after Dorothy heals, they, along with their two daughters, decide that they're going to lay a trap for the perpetrators. And so the two daughters are married and their husbands come along with this. And so they devise this plan in November that the six of them would pair up and use walkie-talkies to communicate. They were given various positions around the house. I think one was two of them were in an outbuilding, two of them were in an old van, and then Dorothy and one of her daughters was inside the house. But they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait all night, and nothing happens. And so they call it off. And it has been stated on some of the message boards that within 30 minutes of all of them getting into the house, someone bangs on the house and something is thrown onto the porch. And that would lead you to believe that the perpetrator was staking out the stakeouter. So there's really nothing other than the two attacks, other than just criminal mischief is what's going on, but it's just...
Well, I mean, harassment.
Yeah, well, I was going to say harassment, but it's just the unnerving sense of not knowing when it would start, when it would end, because they said they would go sometimes 6, 8, 10 months, nothing, and then all of a sudden it would happen for weeks at a time, and then again there would be this huge break and nothing else would happen. So a note is left, like I said, on the front porch after the stakeout. And in the note, I think it references that they need to just abandon the house. They need to give up everything they're trying is futile, Well, Bill's like, no, hell no. I've lived here my whole life. Me and my wife have retired here. We're not moving. And to be honest with you, at their age, moving would be a pain in the ass.
Oh, they'd hire somebody. Come on now.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm talking
Two guys
about
in the truck, bro.
yeah. Think about all the shit that they probably have acquired in that house,
yeah.
and then having to relocate to another home and then set that home up. They're in the golden years of their life. They're not going to move. So the person harassing the Wackers was last noted doing this on May 25th of 1994. And so around that time is when this story is given to Unsolved Mysteries. Now, despite the fact that the case received more attention and awareness, it never did provide any updates on whether there was suspects, clues, anybody that ever said that going on Unsolved Mysteries helped solve this case. All it did was bring light to it. And there are some, I guess, undue jabs at Bill and Dorothy. Of course, the first thing is they brought this on themselves. They're the hoaxer. They're hoaxing the whole thing. They're trying to get attention. Why would a 79-year-old man, or at the time it was going on, he's probably, 62, 65. So why would a couple in their 60s enjoying retirement decide that it's a good time to perpetuate a hoax that they are being attacked? To what end? There was no financial gain. There was not, they're in a small town in Ohio. There's not many newspapers, cameras, stuff on the front lawn trying to figure this out. It just doesn't make sense that they would be the perpetrators. Now, sadly, Bill would pass away on July 9th, 1999 at the age of 79. Dorothy would live on until July 22nd of 2010 and pass away at the age of 83. Sadly, they both passed away without ever learning who was responsible for harassment and what was the motive behind it. And as Coach said, there was no significant leads or suspects other than Dorothy's account of the two assaults. Now, the Massillon Police Department's most popular theory is that the 9-year onslaught was orchestrated by a neighbor or a family member. Now, despite this, there has never been any traction on either of those two avenues. It was theorized that maybe their house sat on a piece of property that someone wanted and thought that they could just harass them until they would get them to move. But again, in the 80s, I just don't see... I don't know, man. And the thing is, and there's a lot of shade thrown on the message boards about Dorothy letting a stranger into her house to use the phone. It was the 80s. We didn't have cell phones. And from what I can gather, if you do a cursory search, and I think somewhere somebody had the address of their actual house, they have neighbors, but it's one of those where it's probably anywhere from, I'd say, a quarter of a mile to maybe an eighth of a mile between their house and their neighbor's house. Now, she was able to yell to get help, and they were close enough to hear her yells when she woke, bound, and gagged in the kitchen. But it's not like this. Somebody was coming in trying to develop a neighborhood, and their little house stood in the way.
Yeah, there's absolutely, unless they haven't told the whole story, there's no explanation to why.
No, and there's a lot of things that are said about the sheriff. You know, they interview the sheriff or the chief of police for Massillon, and he says that he did have to Dorothy if she thought it was Bill. And I think he was just trying to clarify that that's just part of the investigation. I always have to look at the spouse. And so Dorothy's answer convinced me and everyone in the room that this was not a viable option, and so we just moved on from it. So there's a lot of people that hang on that.
I'm not saying anything towards Bill at all, but I'm just saying that I can't blame them, not only because that is the go-to option by default, but he was never attacked,
Correct. And when she was attacked both times, he was away from the home. So it would lead someone from the outside looking in to suspect that he is orchestrating it, and some people have said that he even paid a younger person to attack his wife. But again, to what end? There was never anything uncovered about insurance policy if she had died or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you pay somebody to kill her, they did a piss poor job.
Yeah, twice.
Because she outlived him by like 20 years. He died in what, 99? I think she died in 2009, right?
2010, yeah. He died in 99. She outlived his ass by 11 years. So we tell you this story because if you can think of a theory, they've come out there and they've figured it out. I mean, you can lose part of your life going through the message boards.
Well, I mean, we gotta give our theories, man. We can't just move on to the next case, can we?
Well, here's the thing. I don't
or
really.
We come back.
We can come back because in the way that we can go ahead and give them now. Hell, I don't give a shit. For the Wacker case, though, I don't. Short of someone, and please don't take this the wrong way, but this sounds like someone that travels a lot for extended periods of times, like a long-haul trucker or someone in the trades that are on job sites for 3, 4, 5, sometimes 8 months.
Like Carney.
Well, damn near it. And so it seems like somebody's getting loaded up on that Toodaloo, and he's going out there and fucking with the elderly people just for shits and giggles. And what's even more fucked up, like you said, is that they were robbed, but eventually, throughout the years, all of the items that were taken are returned and laid on the front porch.
Yeah, that's weird, but I guess it's to prove to them that it's the same person,
Yeah.
Me again, Margaret, like.
True. I don't know. Short of that, short of it being a long haul trucker, a tradesman, a carny, I don't know. It would be a traveling salesman, but maybe Bill pissed off somebody younger right before he retired at his job, which I don't even know what he did for a living. And they decided that they were going to get Bill back, but they were going to do the slow play, and they were going to go from 84, 85 to 93. 9 years, that's a long time to screw with someone.
It really is. But maybe you're right about the traveling part, and if you're playing some sick, sadistic game like that, and I think it's funny to fuck with people. An elderly couple's pretty decent target because, it's not, you're going to pick on a young couple, 25, 26, when I'm just trying to say the elderly not going to fight back as well as an able-bodied person.
True, and I think the other thing, we're probably dealing with an individual that does not have all the floors.
Oh, well, clearly not.
My thing is, it's probably well known that Bill served in World War II, and they are called the greatest generation for a reason. I would not fuck with a World War II vet in the 80s when he was 60. There's no way. No, I don't give a shit. Nuh-uh. You ain't. Hey, man, let's go mess with old man Wacker. No, y'all go ahead. Let me know if y'all make it out alive. So, I don't know, man. I really don't have a theory other than that traveling theory that I've got. So, we tell you that story to tell you this story. So,
you might have, should have, could have put this in the opening too. We could have.
Well, this is just a bonus.
Oh, snap!
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting until you get to right now. It's like somebody bought you churros at the Mexican restaurant. I do love me some churros. All right, so I know it's fried dough with cinnamon and sugar. So we are going to talk about another crazy ass case that's similar to this, but it has a dark twist to it at the end. So there was an elderly lady that was terrorized by nighttime burglars, and this occurred in 1981 in Chicago. And I'm going to do my best, but I believe you pronounce her name Sigrid Barginde, and she was 87 when this began.
Sheesh.
87 in 1981. Okay, she was legally deaf and blind, and I believe she worked as I think she worked as like a volunteer librarian, and she would take the transit to and from. But she said that it first started in April of 81 and culminating in July, or the end of July of 81. Now, she tells the story that she had fallen asleep on her couch watching TV, and she woke without her glasses on, so she's legally blind, so she's just barely making out shapes, to what she called 3 shadowy figures moving in her living room. And when she started screaming, they threw a bedsheet over her and hit her in the head and pushed her into a closet and ransacked the house and robbed her. She says that she stayed in the closet until the voices went away, and then she comes out of the closet, finds her glasses, calls the police, and 2 police officers, Bill Melmany and Larry Vise, investigate the break-in. Now, she told them that she felt like her house was bugged and that the telephones were being tapped. The officers are skeptical at first because they could not find any signs of forced entry into the home. What they did find was the phone had been... She said she had to go to a neighbor's house to call police because her phone was tampered with. So they're like, yeah, really? Maybe you just couldn't use yours. It was just easier to get your neighbor to do it. So they take the phone in, and sure enough, inside the phone, part of the receiver is like been ripped out. So they get it repaired, and the first time they screw it down extra tight, believing there's no way an 87-year-old woman is going to be able to take this thing apart and mess this up again. So I think within a week, she has to call the police again, and she's like, look, my phone won't work again. And they come and investigate, still can't find any signs of forced entry. They find the phone, and they take the end cap off of the receiver. Sure enough, the transmitter gone again. And so the third time they return it, or no, this would be the second time, they super glue it together, and they're like, all right, if she's doing it, there's no way she's going to be able to get this thing apart. So sure enough, another week rocks on. She calls the police again. This time the receiver and the phone line coming out of the wall have been ripped out, and she is totally without a phone.
Oh, wow.
So spring turns into summer. She basically consistently, constantly, every week there's something else being done. And they determine, the officers do, that the only entrance into the house that they could find was a bedroom window that could only be opened up to 8 or 10 inches. And they thought that would be way too small for 3 individuals to get in. But you only have to have 1 individual get in to unlock the door to let the other 2 come inside. Officer Vile says, quote, we figured it must have been a kid getting in there. Nobody else could fit. The problem was she couldn't describe who it was, so we had no description to go on. Now, Miss Barginde's alderman, Robert Shaw, sent 2 men to her house to inspect the security. And a local locksmith changed the locks for a $10 fee. The neighbors helped her out. They cut down some weeds and things obscuring the house. And a social worker urged her to move, and she was like, no, I can't move. I'm legally blind. I'm, almost deaf. I have my little apartment figured out in my mind. If it was just going to be total harassment for her to learn the layout of something else. So she said that the only way she would leave if she could get, I don't know, some kind of monetary gain for her property. But she said that she couldn't in her right mind sell her property and not bring up the fact that she was constantly being harassed to the new owners. So on June 26th of 1981, a friend stops by her house to check on her. He cannot get her to answer the door, so he calls police. And police come in. They go into the living room. Again, they find the phone ripped out of the wall and the receiver missing. But this time, unfortunately, they find Miss Barginde face down on her bed with her hands tied behind her back with a scarf, and she is deceased.
Man, oh, it's awful.
It is. Now, the Cook County medical examiner said that she actually passed away of a heart attack, and they believe, the pathologist that did the examination believes that her heart attack was brought on by stress or emotional trauma. Someone literally scared her to death. But he said he could not rule out that it was caused by overexertion, physical overexertion, or a bad dream. And we don't know what spurred it, Dr. Wayne Carver says, but it's possible that it came on as a result of a shock, but there's no way to verify it one way or the other. The problem with that is, while she technically could have had just scared herself to death, if she was really being someone's breaking into her home weekly and messing with her, they are the cause of that and could be charged or could have been charged with negligent homicide. Now, the thing is, they did realize, and this goes into, what was the case that we did where the lady was harassed and she was found dead, and the knot expert said she could have tied those knots. It's another Unsolved Mysteries case, and I cannot think of that lady's name. But anyway, just like in that case, the authorities said that Miss Barginde could have tied herself up. But to what extent? Again, why would she be trying to have this attention brought on her? It's not like the old joke about the son getting the father's garden tilled while he's in prison. This lady couldn't see or hear, so it didn't matter how much work they did to her house. She still couldn't determine whether it had been done or not. So these are two strange cases that we wanted to bring to you. And here's the other thing. With Miss Barginde's story, they never found anything missing of significance. So again, they go against Coach's golden rule that if you're going to break in, you might as well rob them.
In for a penny, in for a pound. 100%, man. You're going to get life for murder. They're not even going to charge you with robbery. I promise. Trust me.
That's right. Trust him. He will not lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. So let us know what you think about these two cases. The Wacker case was recommended, and that recommendation came with another recommendation that will be new in next week. We're going to call it our Medical Mystery Brew. But let us know what you think in the second case. I mean, if you're not robbing someone, this kind of reminds me of, was it in South Korea or Japan where that guy lived in those people's attic for like 8 years and then stabbed the husband?
I don't know, but that sounds, fuck that. That sounds like a big old barrel full of fuck that. Ooh, shit.
Yeah, that was that's what, when I first thought of this one, or when I first read about this one, that's what came to my mind. But these are so weird that I was trying to think of who that other lady was that we did. Cindy James. The Cindy James case is the one I was thinking about. Episode 67, if you're looking to brush up on it. She had over 100 incidents of stalking, and then she wound up...
they said that she did it to herself.
Yeah, the not expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it was suicide. She suicided herself. So, but anyway.
Yeah. She tied herself up, hammered a nail through her hand.
Yeah. Through her wrist or something. Yeah. No. Not happening. But anyway, so let's get into recommendations, and I will jump on this one first just because I have tried to find something to pass my time here lately, cause my eyes cross it looking at these grades. Hulu. I'm on a Hulu kick here lately. Hulu has every season of the X-Files. And I have
never watched a single episode.
Every day there's something else that just makes me dislike you more.
It's just a fact, man. I haven't seen a single episode.
Well, what's funny is, and the reason I bring this up is because season 2, episode 1, none other than Raylan Givens' daddy plays a senator in Washington, D.C. And boy, howdy, how times were not kind to that old man. He looks totally different. But I have started watching those again. I mean, I was religiously watching that. That was Fox's biggest hit when they first come out.
No, wrong.
No.
That's the house that Married with Children built, my friend.
Not on Friday nights.
You said when Fox first came out.
That was Fox's first Friday night blockbuster. Not blockbuster.
You didn't say anything about Friday night, you dumb.
Well, I was trying to. It's kind of like you talking about Loomy Joe's Load.
No. You said it was their biggest hit. Married with Children.
Simpsons. All right. So anyway.
Married with Children. And there's nothing without Married with Children.
You're right. There's nothing without Al
Bundy.
Al Bundy,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, by the way.
Yeah, we know. You tell us every time he's brought up.
I want to roll with him, and then the dude from Tool, the lead singer Tool Maynard is a brown belt, my friend. No bullshit though. My recommendation is you go fuck yourself and listen to what I'm trying to say.
I know you want to roll with 3 men. It's okay. Let's go.
Not at the same time, which I know that don't make
it any better.
One at a time. I'm only so much.
He's getting older, ladies. He's getting older.
I'm going to recommend Tulsa King. It's streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus. If you watch Yellowstone, it is from the same man who created Yellowstone. Do you know who the creator of Yellowstone is?
I saw the name just the other day, and I can't remember it. Who is it?
Taylor Sheridan.
That's right, Taylor Sheridan.
Where you might know him from?
Where would we might know him from, Coach?
He was the deputy sheriff in Sons of Anarchy.
That's right.
Yeah, buddy. Anywho, it stars the great, talented Sylvester Stallone as a mafia boss that gets out of prison and sent to Tulsa. And it's very good, man. Very good.
I've heard good things about it.
I recommend it. I enjoy it. I mean, Sylvester Stallone's 87 years old, and he's still an intimidating son of a bitch, man.
He could put out another Rambo tomorrow, and I would still be scared of him.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else there, Slapnut?
Oh, I think we said it all, my friend.
I think we have. I think we've covered everything. Y'all have a great and wonderful rest of this week, and deuces.